I want to start by saying Ronald Reagan called education the key that unlocks the golden door of opportunity. And to my way of thinking, that is just about a perfect definition. In many respects, Oklahoma is poised to cross the threshold of that doorway. Our state has experienced remarkable growth in recent years. Oklahoma's median household income has increased at twice the national average. We enjoy low unemployment, and we are among the nation's top-ranking states in terms of economic performance. Oklahoma City, in particular, is making incredible impressions on the national and international scene, an accomplishment that reflects the vision and hard work of so many people right here in this very room. A growing economy, a rejuvenated downtown, more jobs, and really booming creativity, of course, in the thunder, which I'm a big fan, so yes. But what's been missing statewide? It's really about results for kids in education. The priority of results has to be paired with action to get there. And without that, Oklahoma's story will always have limitations. If we ensure that our schools today are equipping students with the skills and knowledge to pursue post-secondary education and modern-day careers, then the renaissance in Oklahoma City will continue for generations. Engage, educate, elevate. With these three steps, I believe we will get to where we need to be in pre-K through 12th grade. Engagement, working together, being part of the process. It is critical to the success in education. A lot of moving parts working together to create a strong educational system, and unequivocally much of it needs to be improved in order to change Oklahoma schools and to build that capacity. So what did I see when I drove 92,000 miles in a 16-month period? I saw a lot of people working hard, a lot of folks almost exhausted at the kind of energy that they were putting toward education, whether they were in schools, whether they were teachers, parents, philanthropic community, business, industry. Great effort. But until we recognize that just one spinning in energy, that motion for progress, we can't mistake that motion for progress. It takes coming together like gears that spin alone, hard working. But until we come together and engage, we will not move forward, and we must move forward together. That means we must solicit and listen to the expertise of the business and industry, our nonprofit partners, and those in local and state government alike. We need to apply every education stakeholder's unique expertise and perspectives where they can be most effective. And we must always assess our own reforms to ensure that they are accurate and change-making. For 15 years, I owned and operated a small business, as you heard just a moment ago, called Kumon Math and Reading Centers in South Tulsa and in Utica Square. And I am proud of what my staff and I accomplished, steering that center and those children and the parent partnerships toward excellence. And we were recognized as one of the top 20 most successful among 2,000 in North America. Oklahoma kids outperforming kids throughout this country, throughout North America. But it starts with relationships, and it's the collective impact you spoke of, Teresa. It is about that kind of trust that comes with relationships. My success, I believe, was only possible because I knew how to build a team, and truly it was an extraordinary team. I knew how to provide uncommon service and deliver really outstanding results for kids, but that came through a relationship. None of that would have been possible without the buy-in of students and parents. And that is where trust and building relationships matter. and we have to take time for that to develop, or we continue to spin, mistaking motion and energy for progress. The State Department of Education is in the process of bringing together more than a dozen advisory councils to provide the agency with continuous feedback on education policies and system improvement. These councils will include representatives of business and industry, as well as nonprofits and the faith-based community, superintendents, as well as principals and teachers, those on the front lines, those who are tasked with a very different task, with a very different composition in their classroom than 30 years ago. Parents must be a part of it, and we must engage our parents and, in fact, have a true paradigm shift in what we think of when we think of parent engagement. These councils will provide your Department of Education with a wealth of sorely needed experience and unique perspective. We will use the advice of these councils to inform policies and actions. Advisory council members will gain their own insights to what's happening in our schools and how their communities can help. And it can't be the same everywhere. We know that, another quote from Ronald Reagan, those closest to the problem have the best hope of solving it. I want to see engaged school board members who are part of the strategic initiatives and plannings that are really unique and fit the needs of their community. Building a strong system of education, a strong public education system, requires finding common ground and an honest exchange of ideas. But it requires more fundamental components too. Aside from the obvious exception of family, a teacher is the most important person in the schoolhouse. Yet, despite the critical nature of that mission, too many now find themselves feeling marginalized or even neglected, to the point that Oklahoma schools are in the midst of an unprecedented teacher shortage. Earlier this year, we were reporting that there were 8,000 teacher vacancies. We won't know this year's figures for a little while, but early indications are sobering. So far this year, the Department of Education, through the State Board of Education, has had to issue more than 500 emergency teaching certifications. That's a five-fold increase since 2012. It used to be unusual to see 100 of these. We are already surpassing the numbers that we had from last year. In fact, this month alone, in August, there will be over 300 just in 1 month. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the emergency certifications, this is a way to place teachers in classrooms who have yet to take the more traditional route of certification, who have yet to be tested in their fields. This critically high demand for emergency certifications is a stark sign that schools are being forced to get more and more and more creative just to fill the basics. Now, here's what's really staggering. Of that number, just in July, which was 182 emergency certifications that had to be filled, half of them were in early childhood and elementary, not STEM. So what we sometimes think of as vacancies that are in certain hard-to-fill areas, we're talking now about a classroom teacher that is being replaced with a substitute teacher that's revolving through the year. Our kids suffer if we don't solve this. This shortage is a crisis in which, truly, our school children are the ultimate victims, and we cannot allow that to continue. There are multiple ways to solve this. I will continue to make the case that Oklahoma teacher pay must, at the very least, be competitive. I don't mean competitive with Mississippi or South Dakota, who are the only states in the nation that on average pay their teachers less than we do. The hashtag OKHighFive plan that I proposed is simple and effective. Elevate teacher pay to the regional average and days of instruction to the national average over 5 years. It didn't materialize this past legislative session for obvious reasons. We're in a tough time. K through 12 education was rightly grateful just to have had a standstill budget in the wake of a historic $611 million shortfall. But there is a breaking point, and the stakes are too high, and our children are too precious to give up this fight. I know we all want the same things. As a small business owner, I learned to rely on my common sense, and I gained an appreciation for the bottom line. Oklahoma's approach to standardized testing, I believe, could benefit from some bottom line common sense thinking. Yesterday, I joined a coalition of education leaders, business and community leaders, representatives from the legislature, as well as those members here today from the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, who stood together to see a new initiative, a new pilot that is offering students that are juniors an opportunity to take the ACT regardless of their economic impact, of their economic standing, regardless of their ability to drive long distances for rural students to go to a testing site on a weekend. And we were able to offer something that districts began to clamor for, as a test that they were used to was discontinued, and this is the first year without it. So we were able to leverage a state rate when districts, in fact, 400 of the districts registered in a 3-day period that they wanted to do this. We were able to save thousands and thousands, in fact, tens of thousands of dollars for Oklahoma education budget and leverage that statewide rate so that all juniors at the district level could opt in and take the ACT free of cost for the student and the district. This is a pilot program. What we learned is 50% of juniors aren't taking the ACT. That means 22,000 11th graders have been left behind for years. Young people who otherwise likely would sit out of the process and assume college is out of their reach are now going to have an opportunity. This pilot has made this opportunity more accessible, particularly to those low-income students. We can convince more school children to pursue post-secondary education. And let me just explain this. It's not just about going to college. It's about stackable credentials. Just this morning, I'm the chairman of the State Career Tech Board, as well as the State Board of Education. We need to have those pathways, those on-ramps, many on-ramps to post-secondary education. And the pilot allows for all of our students in the 11th grade to have multiple opportunities. When they get their ACT score back, it will have a predictor of industry certification readiness. That if they were to take the work keys, here is their likely score for bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And we will offer, through Career Tech, the opportunity to take that work keys in the senior year if they haven't already. But what also happens is those of the 44,000 juniors, 22,000 now, are not shut out from the opportunity for concurrent enrollment. Because you have to have an ACT score to become a student who earns college credit during high school. And we know those students who do that are more likely to finish and do their work in college more successfully and on time. So we lag other states when it comes to concurrent enrollment. And this is one way to open that door and in a way put the key in the ignition to drive kids forward. At this point, Oklahoma is at a really moment of looking at how do we do what seems like an insurmountable task. Well, we do it by working together. And I believe this is a smart step, and it hits the bottom line initiative that a high school diploma is no longer sufficient in today's world. We saw that with Secretary Shirley as she is working with the governor's Oklahoma Works initiative. As Governor Fallin has noted in her Oklahoma Works initiative, by 2020, 60% of the jobs are going to require more than a high school diploma. That's changed significantly from just 2010. We only have a few years to go to get there. We don't have time to wait. our kids are counting on us to get it right and to open the doors so they can run through. By focusing on college and career readiness, it is only part of the equation. Many other challenges remain. We know that. Our eyes are open to the real struggles that we have in this state. None of us are blind to those challenges facing education. Accountability is important, absolutely important. It is critical to making sure our educators, our schools, are doing what they are supposed to be doing, which is putting kids first and making sure that they clear the pathway for their success. And that's what I hear today with Oklahoma City Public Schools. But accountability must be more than words on paper. It needs to be credible. We do a disservice to education's consumers when we confuse accountability with harsh, unbending mandates. I believe in systems of accountability forged by reliable, data-driven research. If we are going to weigh school effectiveness, we cannot afford to keep our thumb on the scale. We absolutely must know when we are getting things wrong, but we also should recognize and celebrate when we are getting things right, and that's what I heard from Teresa. Any good businesswoman or man knows you cannot punish and penalize your way toward great teamwork. It is also about rewarding those who excel. But there is common ground here. We all want our children to have the opportunity for a good education, urban or rural, rich or poor, Republican or Democrat. The desire for a strong education system transcends artificial divides. There is so much on which we can agree, and it is ridiculous to let political gamesmanship keep any of us from working together. Together, we must stand to elevate student performance. And that education, most importantly for our students and their futures, and that their future endeavors, and as we heard, every one of them has a name: strengths, needs, hopes, and dreams. Every one of them is important to you in this room, I know, but we must never settle for the best. Nothing worthwhile is easy, and there is nothing more worthwhile than education. We must engage our communities, remember that our kids are always worth the investment. With your expertise, advocacy, and dedication, we can do great things together. I stand before you with great hope, and the hope comes from the people in this room. All throughout the state, we have focus on education through the leadership of our elected officials, our governor. We have focus now that we haven't had in decades. Let's not miss this opportunity. Let's come together. Let's engage. Let's educate. Let's elevate. The stakes are high, and our kids are counting on us to get it right. And I believe the best years are yet to come in Oklahoma, and it's going to be because of you and your engagement, and I am proud to stand with you shoulder to shoulder. Thank you.